You know, you just saw that my friends from the Big Money Show were talking to, it sounds like a home builder or someone in that, real estate business, saying about how rates have actually come down and stabilized. Well, they actually have. The 30-year fixed rate mortgage has gone down about 2/3 of a point in that environment. So he's saying that that is generating a good deal of interest. We did see that with the interest rates going to the lowest level we've seen in 4 months, a lot more mortgage demand building, and that was the case. Now, 1 week does not a trend make, but I wonder what Tim Rood thinks of it. The SitusAMC managing director follows this very, very closely. Tim, what are we to make of what we're seeing on the real estate front with borrowing rates? So, of course, these are the rates that the Federal Reserve cannot control. They can have big influence of them. So things like the 10-year note and some of these others that a lot of mortgage rates are pegged to have indeed come down. What do you think's going on?
Well, first and foremost, Neil, you look fabulous. I was in the green room and I could only think we must be part of the same trunk club or something like that. Like, this is pretty much the same.
We do look alive. You look a little classier, my friend. But it is weird, isn't it?
All the way down to the pocket square. No pocket squares. There must be like shipping delays. Anyway, so to your point, yeah. Look, the great hangover of 2022 that was really driven by interest rates for the housing market seems to be maybe abating. Look, if you asked me 3 weeks ago, I would have thought, man, 2023 is going to be, it's basically going to be follow the direction of, interest rates. If interest rates head up to 7, just right off 2023, it's going to be a mess for the housing market. If you start getting closer to 5.5%, and right now, as your screen said, we're looking at the low 6s, there's a brand new enthusiasm for buyers who still have that demand, and even all the way up to the builders who, quite frankly, for the last 12 months have seen their confidence levels falling. So there's some good signs for 2023.
And Tim, when last you and I talked, a lot of people with dire predictions for housing, saying that we're going to have a housing crash. Mm-hmm. I had one guy on who was saying it's going to be what it was, with the housing meltdown. And I see so many differences. I think we both discussed it at the time where, people would buy, real estate sight unseen and trade them like chits on a gambling table. None of that is going on now. In fact, no lender is allowing that to go on now. So I don't see that kind of evaporation that I was hearing. Maybe a correction, especially overheated markets, but nothing like a crash. What do you say?
No, I think you're right. Look, I mean, this is any comparison to the 2008 sort of housing crisis and all that is apples to pineapples. I mean, that was based on fraud, speculation, and financial engineering. This one is really based on fundamentals. Unfortunately, one of the big fundamentals in the housing market is supply and demand. You still have the same organic demand that exists, but we haven't done a darn thing about the supply side. And while the government is doing everything they can to work on the demand side, like, hey, look, we can subsidize interest rates. Hey, look, we can expand credit. But it's kind of like a seesaw. If you're not working on the other side of this thing, it's completely out of balance if you don't focus on how the heck are we going to get some more supply. And there's really no incentives for builders. There's no incentives from the federal government to the states to change zoning, to change land use laws. And that really is the missing kind of link in the chain right now.
I did notice that the investment firm Oppenheimer, though, upgraded a lot of the builders' stocks, I believe, most notably Toll Brothers and Pulte, a few others. Now, I don't know whether that was a reflection. Some of them have gotten beaten down. Not all of them, but a reflection that between builder sentiment and the reality of what's happened, their ship is coming in again. Do you buy that?
Well, I do. I mean, look, there's some recent numbers. If you look at the new home market, builder confidence has been sliding for 12 months. Transactions were off 20% year over year. You see new starts, pending sales, those are all slipping, even all the way up to purchase applications for mortgages. All those things in December were kind of leading lower. All of a sudden, January comes, you have, kind of this renewed optimism around the housing market, not just for buyers, but for builders. So I think that, look, if interest rates can stay around 6, heck, if they can get below 6, you're going to see this renewed enthusiasm from builders. They're going to work to build more properties and do something to satisfy the demand side. I think where the bigger problem right now is you still have, while we were talking about supply on the owner-occupied side, you have this issue now. There's a dialogue going on with the White House and legislators around maybe we need to, because rents have been too high, maybe we need to cap rent payments. Maybe you need to put rent controls in place. And if you're capitalism drives people to invest and finance, commercial real estate properties. It's not patriotism. So if you're an owner or if you're a financer of these rental properties, multifamily apartments and whatnot, and you realize, hey, heck, I can't raise rents. Oh, no, by the way, you really can't even evict. So what the heck are we doing in that business? The risk is money comes out of that market, and the only one who can compete in that, since there's really no economic upside to it, is the federal government. So you look like a lot of renting looks like a lot of public housing, which seems to be the wrong way to go.
Yeah, and twist the market fundamentals there. Tim Rood, always good seeing you, my friend. Dapper as always, prescient as always. Tim Rood following all of those developments there. In the meantime, the controversy.